Woman rescues abused horse at market. Then he does something unbelievable that changes everything. The bustling Millbrook Horse Market was in full swing, a cacophony of neighs, shouts, and the shuffling of hooves filling the air. Anna Thompson, a 32-year-old veterinary nurse, wove her way through the crowd, more out of curiosity than any intention to buy. She'd always loved horses but had never owned one herself, constrained by the limitations of city living and a demanding job. As she navigated the maze of stalls and pens, a commotion near the far end of the market caught her attention. Raised voices and the panicked whinnying of a horse drew her closer. Pushing through a small gathering of onlookers, Anna's heart sank at the sight before her. A large, chestnut gelding stood trembling in a makeshift pen, his coat dull and matted, ribs clearly visible beneath his skin. But it was the horse's eyes that truly captured Anna's attention, large, brown, and filled with a mixture of fear and resignation that spoke of a difficult past. "Come on, you stubborn nag." A heavy-set man in a worn leather jacket was tugging roughly on the horse's lead rope, trying to force him into a trailer. The horse planted his feet, refusing to move, his whole body quivering with each harsh yank. Without thinking, Anna stepped forward. "Excuse me," she called out, her voice steady despite the anger bubbling inside her. "I don't think that's the best way to handle him. You're only frightening him more." The man turned, his face flushed with exertion and irritation. "Mind your own business, lady. This worthless beast is more trouble than he's worth. If he doesn't shape up, he'll be off to the glue factory." Anna felt a chill run down her spine at the casual cruelty in the man's words. She looked back at the horse, taking in the scars on his flanks and the way he flinched at every sudden movement. In that moment, she made a decision that would change her life forever. "How much?" she asked, her voice firm. The man blinked, surprised. "What? How much for the horse?" Anna repeated, already reaching for her wallet. A calculating look crossed the man's face. 500, he said, clearly expecting her to balk at the price. Without hesitation, Anna pulled out her credit card. "Done. I'll take him." As the transaction was completed and ownership papers hastily drawn up, Anna approached the horse slowly, speaking in soft, soothing tones. "It's okay, boy," she murmured, holding out her hand for him to sniff. "You're safe now. No one's going to hurt you anymore." The horse regarded her warily, but didn't pull away when she gently stroked his nose. Up close, Anna could see the extent of his neglect. His hooves were overgrown, his mane tangled with burrs, and old scars crisscrossed his body. "What's his name?" she asked the previous owner, who was counting the cash with a smug expression. The man shrugged. "Don't know, don't care. Previous owner called him Coco or something like that." "Coco?" Anna repeated softly, looking into the horse's eyes. "Is that your name, boy? Coco?" The horse's ears pricked forward at the sound, and he let out a soft nicker. "Well, Coco," Anna said, a determined smile spreading across her face. "Looks like we're in this together now. Let's get you home and cleaned up, shall we?" As Anna led Coco away from the market, she could feel the stares and whispers of the other attendees. She knew what they must be thinking, that she was naive, foolish even, to take on such a clearly troubled animal. But looking at Coco, seeing the glimmer of hope that was slowly replacing the fear in his eyes, Anna knew she had made the right choice. What she didn't know was that this impulsive decision would set in motion a series of events that would not only change her life, but also shine a light on the dark underbelly of the horse racing world. As she walked beside Coco, heading towards an uncertain future, Anna couldn't have imagined the challenges and triumphs that lay ahead. The first few days with Coco were a whirlwind of activity. Anna had hastily arranged for him to be boarded at a local stable while she figured out a long-term plan. The stable owner, a kind-faced woman named Martha, had raised an eyebrow at Coco's condition but agreed to take him in. "You've got your work cut out for you, honey," Martha had said, shaking her head as she looked over Coco's numerous issues. "But there's something special about this one. I can see why you couldn't leave him behind." Anna threw herself into Coco's rehabilitation with a passion that surprised even herself. She spent every free moment at the stable, slowly gaining the horse's trust through patience and gentle care. A farrier was called to tend to his neglected hooves, and a veterinarian prescribed a regimen of medications to address his various health issues. As the days turned into weeks, Coco began to transform. His coat, once dull and matted, began to shine with health. He gained weight, his ribs no longer painfully visible. But more importantly, the fear in his eyes began to fade, replaced by a growing trust and affection for Anna. It was during one of their grooming sessions, about a month after the market, that Anna noticed something odd. As she ran the brush along Coco's flank, her fingers traced over a raised area on his skin. Parting the hair, she gasped at what she saw: a small, barely healed scar in the shape of a letter V. "Oh, Coco," she murmured, gently touching the mark. "What happened to you?" As if in response, Coco turned his head and nuzzled Anna's shoulder, his breath warm against her skin. The gesture, so full of trust and affection, brought tears to Anna's eyes. "Don't worry, boy," she said, wrapping her arms around his strong neck. "Whatever happened in your past, you're safe now. I promise." Little did Anna know, that small scar would soon lead her down a path she never expected, uncovering a tale of cruelty and redemption that would change not just her life, but the lives of countless other horses. The next day, Anna decided to do some research. The V scar nagged at her, feeling too deliberate to be an accident. She spent her lunch break at work scouring online horse forums and news sites, looking for any information about branded or marked horses. It was on a small, obscure blog dedicated to exposing malpractice in the horse racing industry that she found her first lead. The post was old, dating back almost 2 years, but it made Anna's blood run cold. "Beware the V, jockey Victor Sanchez, known for marking his horses. Cruel training methods, doping allegations. Horses often discarded when no longer useful. Authorities turn a blind eye due to his winning record." Anna's mind raced. Could Coco have been one of Victor's horses? It would explain the scars, the fear, the signs of abuse. But how had he ended up at a small local market, so far from the glitz and glamour of the racing world? Determined to uncover the truth, Anna reached out to the blog's author, a former stable hand who wrote under the pseudonym Whistleblower. To her surprise, she received a response within hours. "Meet me at the Blue Heron Cafe tomorrow at 2 p.m. I may have more information about your horse. Come alone." As Anna left work that evening, her mind swirling with questions, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was on the brink of uncovering something big, something that went far beyond just Coco's past. She gave Coco an extra-long grooming session that night, drawing comfort from his steady presence and gentle nickers. As she prepared to leave, she pressed her forehead against his, whispering a promise. "I'm going to find out what happened to you, Coco, and I'm going to make sure it never happens to another horse again." The Blue Heron Cafe was a small, nondescript establishment on the outskirts of town. Anna arrived early, her nerves on edge as she sipped a cup of coffee and waited for her mysterious informant. At precisely 2 p.m., a man in his late 50s with salt and pepper hair and tired eyes slid into the booth across from her. "You must be Anna," he said in a low voice. "I'm Jim. I used to work for Victor Sanchez." Over the next hour, Jim painted a horrifying picture of life in Victor's stables. He spoke of brutal training methods, horses pushed beyond their limits, and a callous disregard for the animal's well-being. The V brand, he explained, was Victor's way of marking his property. "But the worst part," Jim said, his voice barely above a whisper, "was what happened to the horses that couldn't perform anymore. They just disappear. Victor would say they were sent to nice farms to retire, but we all knew better." Anna felt sick to her stomach. "And Coco? Do you remember him?" Jim's eyes lit up with recognition. "Coco? Yes, I remember him. Beautiful chestnut gelding, sweet temperament. He was one of Victor's favorites for a while, until what?" Anna pressed. Jim sighed heavily. There was a big race, lots of money on the line. Victor had been pushing Coco hard. Too hard. I tried to tell him the horse needed rest, but he wouldn't listen. During the race, Coco stumbled. Didn't fall, but lost the race. Victor was furious. Jim paused, swallowing hard. He beat Coco badly that night. The next day, Coco was gone. I quit shortly after. Couldn't take it anymore. Anna sat in stunned silence, tears streaming down her face. The thought of what Coco had endured was almost too much to bear. Why hasn't anyone stopped him? She finally managed to ask. Jim shrugged helplessly. Money talks in this industry. Victor wins races, brings in big bucks. People look the other way. As Anna left the cafe, her mind was reeling. She now had a clearer picture of Coco's past, but it brought her no comfort. Instead, she felt a burning determination to bring Victor Sanchez to justice, not just for Coco, but for all the horses he had abused. Over the next few weeks, Anna threw herself into gathering evidence. She reached out to animal welfare organizations, spoke to other former employees of Victor, and documented every scar and sign of past abuse on Coco's body. Her efforts didn't go unnoticed. One evening, as she was leaving the stable, she found her car tires slashed. A note on the windshield read, "Drop it or else." But rather than deter her, the threat only strengthened Anna's resolve. It was during this time that Coco truly began to blossom. Whether sensing Anna's need for comfort or simply responding to consistent love and care, he became increasingly affectionate. He would nick her softly when she arrived at the stable, nuzzle her pockets for treats, and stand patiently for hours as she groomed him and whispered her plans for justice. "We're going to make this right, Coco," she would tell him, running her hands along his now gleaming coat. "Not just for you, but for all the horses like you." Anna's big break came unexpectedly. A young jockey, new to Victor's stables, reached out to her after hearing about her investigation. He had video evidence of Victor's abusive practices, footage that would be impossible to ignore. With trembling hands, Anna compiled all the evidence and submitted it to the Racing Commission and local law enforcement. The response was swift. Victor Sanchez was arrested, his racing license suspended pending investigation. But Anna's fight was far from over. As news of Victor's arrest spread, she was shocked to receive a call from his lawyer. Victor was claiming ownership of Coco, demanding the horse be returned to him. "He abandoned that horse," Anna argued, her voice shaking with anger. "Left him to die. He has no right to claim him now." But the lawyer was insistent. A court date was set to determine Coco's fate. The weeks leading up to the court date were a whirlwind of activity. Anna enlisted the help of a pro bono lawyer who specialized in animal rights cases. Together, they built a case around Victor's neglect and abuse, arguing that he had forfeited any right to Coco when he abandoned him. The day of the hearing arrived, and Anna felt a mix of determination and fear as she entered the courthouse. She had left Coco at the stable that morning, promising him she would do everything in her power to ensure he never had to see Victor again. The courtroom was packed. News of the case had spread, and animal rights activists had turned out in force to support Anna and Coco. Victor sat on the opposite side of the room, his face a mask of arrogant indifference. As the proceedings began, Anna's lawyer presented their evidence photographs of Coco's condition when Anna first got him, veterinary reports detailing the extent of his past injuries, and testimonies from former employees about Victor's abusive practices. Victor's lawyer argued that Coco was a valuable racehorse, an investment that Victor had every right to reclaim. The words made Anna's stomach turn. When it was her turn to speak, Anna stood, her voice shaking slightly but growing stronger with each word. "Coco isn't just a horse to me," she said, looking directly at the judge. "He's a living, feeling being who has suffered immense cruelty. When I found him, he was broken, physically and spiritually. It's taken months of patience and love to help him trust again, to show him that not all humans will hurt him." She paused, taking a deep breath. "Your Honor, I'm not a wealthy woman. I can't offer Coco a life of luxury, but I can promise him safety, kindness, and love for the rest of his days. Isn't that what every living creature deserves? The courtroom was silent as the judge considered. After what felt like an eternity, he spoke. Based on the evidence presented, it's clear that Mr. Sanchez's treatment of this animal was not only negligent but cruel. His claim of ownership is hereby rejected. Custody of the horse known as Coco is awarded to Miss Thompson. The courtroom erupted in cheers. Anna felt tears of relief streaming down her face as her supporters surrounded her with hugs and congratulations. But the judge wasn't finished. Furthermore, he continued, silencing the room, I am recommending a full investigation into Mr. Sanchez's training practices and treatment of animals. This case has brought to light disturbing allegations that cannot be ignored. As Anna left the courthouse, she felt a weight lift from her shoulders. Coco was safe. And more than that, there was hope that other horses might be spared the cruelty he had endured. She drove straight to the stables, needing to see Coco to tell him the good news. As she approached his stall, he nickered softly, reaching his head over the door to nuzzle her. We did it, Coco, she whispered, wrapping her arms around his strong neck. You're safe now, forever. That night, as Anna sat in Coco's stall, watching him peacefully munch on hay, she realized that this victory, as sweet as it was just the beginning. There were other horses out there, suffering as Coco had suffered. Other trainers like Victor, prioritizing profit over the well-being of their animals. An idea began to form in her mind. A sanctuary, perhaps. A place where abused and neglected horses could find safety and healing. It would be a huge undertaking, requiring more money and resources than she currently had. But looking at Coco, seeing how far he had come, Anna knew it was a dream worth pursuing. What do you think, boy? She asked, scratching Coco's favorite spot behind his ears. Ready for a new adventure? Coco's gentle nicker seemed like agreement. As Anna left the stable that night, her mind was already whirling with plans. She had a long road ahead, but with Coco by her side, she felt ready to take on any challenge. The months following the court case were a whirlwind of activity. Anna's victory against Victor Sanchez had made headlines, not just locally, but nationally. She found herself thrust into the spotlight as a champion for animal rights, particularly in the world of horse racing. Donations began pouring in from people touched by Coco's story. Animal welfare organizations reached out, offering support and resources. Anna's small idea for a sanctuary began to grow into something much bigger than she had initially imagined. With the help of Martha, the stable owner who had first taken in Coco, Anna began searching for the perfect property. They found it in a sprawling 50-acre farm just outside the city limits. The land had been neglected for years, the barn and fences in need of repair, but Anna saw its potential immediately. It's perfect, she breathed, standing in the overgrown field, Coco grazing contentedly nearby. We can build something amazing here. The process of turning the dilapidated farm into a functioning sanctuary was daunting. Anna quit her job at the veterinary clinic to focus on the project full-time. Days were spent coordinating renovations. Nights were dedicated to grant writing and reaching out to potential donors. Through it all, Coco remained her constant companion and inspiration. He seemed to thrive in the open spaces of the farm, his playful spirit fully emerging as he galloped through the fields. Watching him, Anna was reminded daily of why this work was so important. 6 months after purchasing the property, Second Chance Ranch was ready to welcome its first residents. The renovated barn gleamed with fresh paint, spacious stalls lined with clean straw. Fenced paddocks stretched across the property, offering safe spaces for horses to roam and graze. The first new arrival was a skinny bay mare named Willow, rescued from a neglectful owner. As Anna led her into the barn, Coco watched curiously from his stall. To Anna's surprise and delight, he nickered softly, as if welcoming Willow to her new home. Over the next year, more horses arrived, each with their own story of neglect or abuse, each in need of the patience and care that Anna and her growing team of volunteers could provide. There was Thunder, a former racehorse with a bowed tendon, discarded when he could no longer run. Daisy, a gentle pony who had been kept in a too-small enclosure for years. Ghost, a white stallion so traumatized by past abuse that he shied away from any human touch. Anna threw herself into the work, finding deep fulfillment in the daily challenges and small victories. The first time Thunder cantered across the field without limping. The day Daisy finally allowed herself to roll in the grass, free from confinement. The moment Ghost tentatively stretched out his nose to take a treat from Anna's hand. But it was Coco who continued to be the heart of the sanctuary. He seemed to have a special ability to connect with the most traumatized horses, his calm presence soothing their fears. Anna often found him standing at the fence line of the newcomer's paddock, as if keeping watch over the newest and most vulnerable residents. As the sanctuary's reputation grew, Anna found herself increasingly called upon as an expert in equine rescue and rehabilitation. She testified at legislative hearings, advocating for stricter animal welfare laws in the racing industry. She gave interviews, sharing Coco's story and raising awareness about horse abuse and neglect. One crisp autumn morning, almost 2 years after she had first spotted Coco at the horse market, Anna stood on the porch of the small house she had built on the sanctuary grounds. The rising sun painted the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks, illuminating the fields where several horses grazed peacefully. Coco approached from the nearby paddock, his coat gleaming in the early morning light. He nudged Anna's shoulder gently, and she reached up to stroke his nose. "Look at what you started, boy," she said softly, gesturing to the sanctuary around them. "All of this because of you." As if understanding her words, Coco nickered softly, his warm breath tickling her cheek. Anna wrapped her arms around his neck, burying her face in his mane. The sweet smell of hay and horse enveloped her, grounding her in this moment of quiet reflection. The sanctuary's success brought with it new challenges. As word spread about Second Chance Ranch, Anna found herself fielding more rescue requests than they could handle. Each call tore at her heart. So many horses in need, and only so much space and resources to go around. One rainy Tuesday morning, Anna received a call that would test the limits of the sanctuary and her own resolve. "Ms. Thompson," the voice on the other end was tense, urgent. "This is Detective Miller from the county sheriff's office. We've just raided an illegal horse fighting ring. We have over 20 horses here in desperate need of care. Can your sanctuary help?" Anna's mind raced. 20 horses at once would stretch their resources to the breaking point. But how could she say no? "We'll make it work," she heard herself say. "Send them over." The next few days were a blur of activity. Volunteers worked around the clock, setting up temporary shelters, treating wounds, and trying to calm terrified animals. The horses arrived in terrible condition, emaciated, covered in scars, their eyes wild with fear and pain. Anna found herself working alongside the sanctuary's veterinarian, Dr. Patel, treating the worst cases. As she cleaned a particularly nasty wound on a gray gelding's flank, she felt a familiar presence behind her. Turning, she saw Coco standing at the stall door, watching intently. "Hey boy," she said softly, "I don't think you should be in here right now. These horses are pretty skittish." But to her amazement, Coco simply nickered softly and took a step closer to the trembling gray horse. The gelding, who had been flinching away from human touch, suddenly stilled. He stretched out his nose towards Coco, nostrils flaring. Dr. Patel watched in awe. "I've never seen anything like it," she murmured. "It's like he's telling them it's safe here." Over the next few weeks, Coco became an unofficial therapy horse for the new rescues. He seemed to have a sixth sense for which horses needed his calm presence the most. Anna would often find him standing vigil outside the stalls of the most traumatized animals, offering silent comfort. The influx of new horses strained the sanctuary's resources to the limit. Feed costs skyrocketed, and medical expenses piled up. Anna found herself staying up late into the night, poring over budgets and grant applications, trying to make ends meet. One evening, as she sat at her desk, surrounded by paperwork and feeling overwhelmed, She heard a soft knock at the door. It was Jim, the former stable hand who had first told her about Victor Sanchez. "Thought you could use this," he said, holding out a steaming mug of coffee. "And maybe some company?" Anna accepted the coffee gratefully, gesturing for Jim to sit. Over the past 2 years, he had become one of the sanctuary's most dedicated volunteers, his experience with horses proving invaluable. "How do you do it, Anna?" Jim asked, his voice filled with admiration. "Every time I think the sanctuary can't possibly take in another horse, you find a way." Anna sighed, running a hand through her hair. "Honestly, some days I'm not sure. It feels like for every horse we save, there are 10 more out there needing help." She paused, her gaze drifting to the window where she could just make out Coco's silhouette in the moonlit paddock. "But then I look at Coco, at how far he's come, at how he helps the other horses. And I know we have to keep going. Every horse deserves that chance." Jim nodded, understanding in his eyes. "You know, I've worked with horses all my life, but I've never seen anything quite like what you've built here. It's not just a sanctuary for the horses. It's a place of healing for people too." His words struck a chord in Anna. She thought of the troubled teens who volunteered at the sanctuary, finding purpose and confidence as they learned to care for the horses. She thought of the veterans with PTSD who found peace in the quiet company of the rescued animals. She thought of her own journey, how saving Coco had given her life a new direction and meaning. "You're right," she said softly. "It's become so much more than I ever imagined." As if on cue, a whinny echoed from the barn, followed by the sound of nickering. Anna and Jim exchanged a glance before hurrying outside. In the barn, they found Coco standing outside the stall of Midnight, one of the most traumatized horses from the Fighting Ring rescue. Midnight, who had previously shied away from all contact, was stretching his nose out to Coco, their foreheads almost touching. "Would you look at that?" Jim whispered, awe in his voice. Anna felt tears prick her eyes. "That's it," she said, a new determination filling her voice. "That's how we'll do it." "Do what?" Jim asked, puzzled. "Expand the sanctuary's mission," Anna explained, her mind racing with possibilities. "We've been so focused on physical rehabilitation, but what Coco does, it's emotional healing. We can develop a program where our successfully rehabilitated horses, like Coco, help newcomers adjust. And we can expand our community outreach, offer more equine-assisted therapy programs." Jim's face lit up with excitement. "Anna, that's brilliant. And I think I know someone who might be able to help us get it off the ground." The next few months were a whirlwind of activity. Jim's contact turned out to be a retired psychologist who had worked with equine-assisted therapy programs. Dr. Laura Chun brought a wealth of knowledge and experience to the sanctuary, helping Anna develop a structured program that combined physical rehabilitation with emotional healing. Coco, unsurprisingly, became the star of the program. His gentle nature and intuitive understanding of traumatized horses made him the perfect therapy horse. Anna watched with pride as he helped horse after horse overcome their fears and learn to trust again. The sanctuary's new focus attracted attention from unexpected quarters. A documentary filmmaker approached Anna about featuring Second Chance Ranch in a series about animal rehabilitation. The exposure brought in new donations and volunteers, easing the financial strain that had been weighing on Anna. But with greater visibility came new challenges. One morning, Anna arrived at the sanctuary to find a small group of protesters at the gate. Their signs accused the sanctuary of exploiting rescued horses for profit. Anna's heart sank as she approached them. "Can I help you?" she asked, trying to keep her voice calm. A woman stepped forward, her face set in a scowl. "You claim to rescue these horses, but we've heard you're using them for therapy programs. That's exploitation." Anna took a deep breath, reminding herself that these people likely had good intentions, even if they were misguided. "I understand your concern," she said. "Would you like to come in and see what we actually do here? Meet some of the horses, talk to our staff." The protesters exchanged uncertain glances, clearly not having expected this response. After a moment of hesitation, they agreed. Anna spent the next few hours guiding the group through the sanctuary, explaining their rehabilitation process and the voluntary nature of their therapy programs. She introduced them to horses like Midnight, once too traumatized to approach humans, now calmly accepting treats from visitors. The tour culminated at Coco's paddock. As if sensing the importance of the moment, Coco approached the fence, his ears pricked forward curiously. "This is Coco," Anna said, her voice filled with affection. "He was our first rescue, and now he helps other horses overcome their fears. Everything we do here is about giving these animals a second chance at a happy life." As the protesters watched Coco gently nuzzle Anna's hand, their hostility visibly melted away. The woman who had confronted Anna earlier stepped forward, tears in her eyes. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "We had no idea. What you're doing here, it's amazing." By the end of the day, the protesters had transformed into supporters, with several even signing up to volunteer. That evening, as Anna sat on the porch of her small house, watching the sun set over the fields, she reflected on the day's events. Coco grazed nearby, occasionally lifting his head to check on her, as if sensing her contemplative mood. "You know, Coco," she said softly, "I think we're really making a difference here." Coco nickered softly in response, making Anna smile. She was about to head inside when her phone rang. The caller ID showed it was Detective Miller, the officer who had contacted her about the horse-fighting ring rescue. "Ms. Thompson," Miller's gruff voice came through the speaker. "I hope I'm not calling too late." "Not at all, Detective," Anna replied, her curiosity piqued. "What can I do for you?" There was a pause before Miller continued. "I've got some news about Victor Sanchez." Anna felt her heart rate quicken at the mention of Coco's former abuser. "What about him?" "He's being released," Miller said, his tone apologetic. "Good behavior and overcrowding. He'll be out by the end of the week." Anna's mind raced with the implications. Victor had made threats during his trial, vowing revenge on those who had ruined him. "Is there any reason to be concerned?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "Officially, no," Miller replied. "But off the record, keep an eye out. Sanchez didn't take his downfall well, and he's had a lot of time to stew over it." After thanking the detective for the warning, Anna hung up, her earlier contentment replaced by a gnawing worry. She looked at Coco, peacefully grazing in the fading light, and felt a fierce protectiveness wash over her. "Don't worry, boy," she murmured. "I won't let anything happen to you or the sanctuary." Over the next few days, Anna threw herself into increasing security at Second Chance Ranch. She installed new locks, set up security cameras, and briefed all staff and volunteers to be extra vigilant. Yet despite these precautions, she couldn't shake the feeling of unease that had settled over her. A week after Victor's release, Anna was woken in the middle of the night by the sound of frantic whinnying. She rushed outside to find the horses in a state of agitation, running back and forth in their paddocks. As she neared the barn, she saw why. The main doors were wide open, swinging in the night breeze. Heart pounding, Anna rushed inside, flicking on lights as she went. Most of the stalls were undisturbed, but when she reached Coco's stall, she felt her blood run cold. The stall door was open, and Coco was gone. "No, no, no," Anna muttered, panic rising in her throat. She was about to rush back outside when she heard a soft nicker from the back of the barn. There, in the last stall, stood Coco. He was positioned protectively in front of a group of the sanctuary's more vulnerable horses, who had apparently been released from their stalls. As Anna approached, she saw why huddled in the corner, trapped by Coco's bulk, was a figure she recognized all too well. Victor Sanchez glared up at her, his face a mask of fury and fear. "Call off your beast," he snarled. Anna felt a rush of emotions, relief at finding Coco safe, anger at Victor's intrusion, and a surprising sense of pride in Coco's actions. "He's not a beast," she said calmly. "He's a protector, something you would never understand." As she called the police, Anna marveled at the turn of events. Coco, once a victim of Victor's cruelty, had not only overcome his past trauma, but had become a guardian for other vulnerable horses. By the time the police arrived to arrest Victor, word had spread among the volunteers. They gathered outside the barn, murmuring in awe as the story circulated. Coco, seemingly unaware of his hero status, calmly returned to his stall, accepting an apple from Anna as if it were just another ordinary night. In the days following Victor's arrest, the sanctuary was abuzz with activity. News of Coco's bravery spread quickly, attracting media attention and a flood of new supporters. Anna found herself juggling interviews, donation offers, and an influx of volunteer applications. But amidst the chaos, she never lost sight of what truly mattered, the well-being of the horses in her care, especially Coco. One quiet evening, about a week after the incident, Anna sat in Coco's stall, brushing his coat as she had done countless times before. The rhythmic strokes of the brush and Coco's contented sighs created a peaceful atmosphere that allowed her mind to wander. "You know, Coco," she said softly, "I've been thinking a lot about how far we've come, about how that day at the market changed everything." Coco turned his head, his intelligent eyes seeming to encourage her to continue. "When I first saw you, I just wanted to help one horse," Anna continued, her voice thick with emotion. "I never imagined we'd end up here, with a whole sanctuary, helping so many animals and people." She paused, remembering the scared, scarred horse Coco had been, and marveling at the strong, confident animal he had become. "You didn't just overcome your past, boy. You've helped others overcome theirs too. You've become a symbol of hope for so many." As if understanding her words, Coco gently nuzzled Anna's cheek, his breath warm against her skin. Anna wrapped her arms around his neck, burying her face in his mane. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything." The next morning, Anna called a meeting with her staff and key volunteers. As they gathered in the small office, she took a deep breath, ready to share the idea that had been forming in her mind. "I think it's time we expand our mission," she began. "Coco's story, and what he's become, has shown me that we have an opportunity to do even more here." She outlined her plan, to create a specialized program focused on pairing rehabilitated horses like Coco with traumatized animals and people. The program would combine equine therapy with education about animal welfare and rescue. "We'll call it the Coco's Champions Program," Anna explained, her eyes shining with excitement. "It will honor Coco's journey and inspire others to see the potential in every animal, no matter their past." The response was overwhelmingly positive. Ideas began flowing: partnerships with schools and veterans organizations, workshops on animal care and rescue, even the possibility of writing a children's book about Coco's story. As the meeting concluded, Jim approached Anna, a proud smile on his face. "You've created something truly special here, Anna," he said. "Coco may have been the catalyst, but it's your heart and vision that's made all of this possible." Anna felt a lump form in her throat at Jim's words. "It's been a team effort," she said, looking around at the dedicated group of people who had become like family. "Every person here, every horse we've saved, they're all part of this journey." Over the next year, Second Chance Ranch underwent another transformation. The Coco's Champions program became a resounding success, attracting visitors and participants from across the country. Coco, now in his prime, continued to play a central role, his gentle nature and intuitive understanding of trauma making him the perfect ambassador for the sanctuary's mission. On the 5th anniversary of Coco's rescue, Anna organized a special celebration at the sanctuary. Supporters, volunteers, and many of the people and animals who had been helped by Second Chance Ranch gathered to commemorate the occasion. As Anna stood before the crowd to give a speech, Coco by her side, she felt overwhelmed by how far they had come. Looking out at the faces before her, humans and horses alike, all touched in some way by the sanctuary's work, she knew that this was only the beginning. 5 years ago, I made a choice to help one horse, Anna began, her voice carrying across the attentive crowd. That choice led us here, to this beautiful sanctuary where countless lives, both animal and human, have been transformed. Coco's journey from a broken, abused horse to the heart and soul of Second Chance Ranch is a testament to the power of love, patience, and second chances. She paused, placing a hand on Coco's neck. The horse stood calmly beside her, his presence a source of strength and inspiration. As we look to the future, we carry with us the lessons Coco has taught us, that every life has value, that past trauma doesn't define us, and that with love and support, we can all become champions for those in need. Anna's voice cracked with emotion as she concluded, "Thank you all for being part of this incredible journey. Here's to many more years of healing, hope, and new beginnings." The crowd erupted in applause, many wiping tears from their eyes, as people came forward to share their own stories of how the sanctuary had touched their lives. Anna felt a profound sense of fulfillment. Later that evening, as the celebration wound down, Anna found herself back in Coco's stall. The horse nickered softly as she entered, his eyes warm with recognition and affection. "Well, old friend," Anna said, stroking his nose, "we've come a long way, haven't we?" Coco's gentle exhale seemed like agreement. As Anna leaned against him, feeling the steady rhythm of his breathing, she reflected on the unexpected path her life had taken. What had started as a simple act of kindness had blossomed into a mission that touched countless lives. The scared, broken horse she had rescued had become a symbol of resilience and hope, not just for other animals, but for people too. As the soft sounds of the stable settled around them, Anna made a silent promise to Coco, to herself, and to all the animals still out there needing help. She would continue this work, continue spreading the message of compassion and second chances, for as long as she was able. "Thank you, Coco," she whispered, pressing her forehead to his, "for everything you've taught me, for everything you are." Coco nickered softly in response, his breath warm against her cheek. In that moment, surrounded by the peaceful sounds of the sanctuary and the solid presence of the horse who had changed her life, Anna knew that this was exactly where she was meant to be. As she left the stable that night, casting one last look at Coco peacefully munching his hay, Anna felt a renewed sense of purpose. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new horses to save, new lives to change. But with Coco's legacy as their guiding light, she knew that Second Chance Ranch would continue to be a beacon of hope for years to come. The journey that had begun with one neglected horse at a market had transformed not just Anna's life, but the lives of countless others. And in the end, that was the true magic of Second Chance Ranch, the ripple effect of compassion, spreading outward, changing the world one life at a time.